Rob, pull up the video with Trump saying Dow's going to get to 100,000, predicting it's going to get to 100,000. I think you have that clip. And then let's go to the Scott Besson, and then we'll go to Luke.
Yeah.
Go for it.
As you probably saw today, the stock market, the Dow, just hit 50,000, 3 years ahead of schedule. They said probably couldn't be done in the 4-year period. We did it in 1 year. So we're 3 years ahead of schedule, broke an all-time record, 50,000, which they say couldn't happen. On the crime front, it was just announced that murders are down and crime is down. It's got the lowest point in 125 years, the year 1900. And that's a big, big number.
Did he say it's going to get to 100,000?
So that was him bragging about the 50,000, but here is his tweet where he mentions that it's going to hit to 100,000.
Record stock market and national security driven by our great tariffs. I am predicting 100,000 on the Dow by the end of my term. Remember, Trump was right about everything. I hope the U.S. Supreme Court is watching. Luke.
Well, but I think he's, again, I think it goes back to what's the value of the dollar, right? The Dow is priced in dollar terms. If we look at, for example, the Dow last year, use S&P just 500 because I'm familiar with it. But if you look at the S&P 500 last year in dollar terms, I think it was up 17 or 18%, 19%. Gold in dollar terms was up 60%. So in gold terms, the S&P fell. The S&P in gold terms has been down 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, and a total return basis. So if you invested in the S&P 25 years ago with dividends reinvested, the so-called pet rock has beaten the S&P over the last 25 years.
Yeah,
and so it's a question of ultimately when you're inflating away the debt, you're inflating away dollar debt. Equities are going to do well, and I think it's ultimately again another sort of signal from Trump of, hey, here's what's going to happen, folks. I think he does care about the country, and I think if one way you mitigate some of the societal fallout of doing this that I think Peter rightfully highlights is if you get more people to buy stocks at 50,000, you inflate the debt away, then people are going to be able to hedge / make some money on that as they're doing it. That's the plan.
First of all, Trump.
Let me go to Brandon, and then I'll come to you. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I don't know whether Trump's trying to just devaluate the currency or inflate away the debt, but I don't see a scenario in which growing the economy 15% or taking the Dow to 100,000 is going to be good for the average person because it's going to.
You don't think it is?
No, I don't see how you could expect that to be good. Like everything's going to be more expensive if that happens. And it's a similar thing to COVID. So the average person doesn't own a lot of stocks. I think 90% of stocks are owned by 10% of the population. And same thing like real estate, cars, food, basic things. Like the basic things that everybody needs is going to get more expensive, like it is right now. Like that's why I laugh every time they say that inflation's down because the things that everybody needs isn't down. It's like I don't know, just probably like goods and services are down a little bit. Maybe oil. A few things here and there. They change the basket around a lot. So I don't think that inflation's actually down. I think it's like you can't have that amount of growth without that amount of inflation. Like,
well, he said a couple things. So I want you to process this, okay?
Yeah.
You have two different types of presidents. They asked him the question, what are you doing about home affordability? One end, hey, these big BlackRock companies, we're putting a stop to you going and buying all this stuff. He says, but I want property value to go up. I don't want it to go down. Yeah. I want it to go up. I don't want it to go down to make it affordable for you. I want it to go up. Okay. 2, Dow. I want Dow to go to 100,000.
He's thinking like a boomer.
Yeah, I get it. But who does that hurt? Who does it not hurt? To me, if you're not in equities, you're going to be destroyed.
Right.
If you're not in equities. Yeah. And everybody who wants to find a way to time the market. I remember one time we had Peter on, and Peter said if I had my money in Max 7, I would have had a lot more money than I do today. I think this was 4 or 5 years ago when we had a conversation together. When he said something like that. What was that?
I don't remember when it was. I said I would have more money in Mag 7, but now it's hard to say. I may have more money now because I was in gold stocks. It's kind of a tough call.
I don't know about Mag 7. I think Mag 7 destroyed gold, but so let me get to this.
But let me comment on.
I will come to you. I will come to you, Peter. You got to let me run the show, and everyone's got to speak. There's 5 names here, and I'll come to you. I'll control it. I'm the point guard. I'll come to you to score. Please respect that. Okay. So 2 things. Bitcoin versus gold, high, low. The last 5 years, Bitcoin's low has been 15,497. Bitcoin's high, 126,230. October 2025. Today, Bitcoin 68,000 and some change. Gold, 5 years. Low, 1618. High, 56 and change. 56.26, whatever it hit. Today, 50.99. It could have changed 50.86 today. Peter, I'm going to come to you with this because this is a victory for you because you've been talking about gold for quite some time. What is your prediction for gold versus Bitcoin the next few years?
Well, first of all, I want to talk gold Dow before I go gold Bitcoin because, when Trump comes out and he says that the Dow's 50,000, first of all, he's claiming credit for it as if he's the reason it's there. And remember, we kept making record highs in the Dow when Biden was president, and Trump said, well, that was the worst economy ever, but we still had record highs in the Dow. And he talks about his great tariffs. The Dow's at 50,000 despite his lousy tariffs, not because of them. His tariffs are not helping the economy, they're harming the economy. But the $50,000 Dow, when gold's at 5,000, the Dow is 10 ounces of gold. It was over 40 ounces of gold 25 years ago. So this is a major bear market, a 75% decline in the real value of U.S. stocks. That is going to continue. Even if Trump is right that the Dow hits 100,000, which I doubt by the end of his term, what if gold is 20,000? Now the Dow's only worth 5 ounces of gold. Even the people who own stocks are going to be worse off if the Dow goes up like that because the stocks are not going to go up as much as inflation. But this is another reason the government likes inflation is because it makes the numbers bigger. And so it creates the illusion that you're getting richer even as you're getting poorer. Now, talking about illusions, when you talk about Bitcoin, look, Bitcoin has been a bubble for a long time. I think it was running out of air. Then they got Wall Street involved. And Wall Street got into Bitcoin in a big way, not because they believed in it, but because they believed other people were dumb enough to believe in it, and they wanted to make money off it. They wanted to book the action. They wanted crypto gamblers at their casino. So Wall Street got involved to generate fees. They got all these ETFs. They started doing banking deals. Then I think the market started to implode until we got Trump. The crypto industry used a lot of their gains to bribe Trump. They gave a lot of money to his campaign. A lot of people voted for him because they hoped he would make their Bitcoin more valuable. It became like a special interest group. So politics got involved, and I think that's the main reason that Bitcoin shot up to 126,000 was the high. The air is coming out of the bubble now. It's down about 50%. I think the entire narrative that Bitcoin is digital gold, which I never believed, fell apart last year when gold had its best year since 1979. Bitcoin went down. Gold is having another great year so far in 2026. Bitcoin is having a horrible year. It's going, MicroStrategy or strategy is having an even worse year. But I think we're headed substantially lower in Bitcoin. I think a lot of the money that came into these ETFs is going to bail. I think a lot of that money, unfortunately, came out of gold ETFs, came out of gold stock ETFs. The investing public was selling their gold and their gold mining stocks when they should have been buying more, and they were taking the money and overpaying for basically nothing. And so they loaded up on Bitcoin. And I think all that money is going to come out. I think all these ridiculous Bitcoin treasury companies like Strategy are now loaded up with Bitcoin. They need to get rid of it. All I see is a decline. The media is trying to hype it up, trying to create the impression that this is some kind of buying opportunity, that you're getting Bitcoin on sale, but you're still overpaying for it. It has very little value.
Luke, do you agree?
In the short run, I think Bitcoin has a lot more downside. It is, to me, I've been calling it the last functioning smoke alarm of liquidity. I think it is a very interesting technology in the long run. It is essentially energy tied neutral reserve asset. The rest of crypto, I pay no attention to. Bitcoin for me is the only thing I watch in the crypto world. It may have some challenges down the road at some point in terms of certain technology, but technology changeovers. If quantum ever someday is an issue, I don't think it's an issue now. I don't think it's going to be for a number of years, but it could be someday. But I don't think that's why it's selling off. I think as the last functioning smoke alarm of liquidity, I think the move from 125,000 to 67,000, wherever we are today, it's the first indicator of a softening economy, of a risk-off environment. And I think that is a message that should be heeded.
Tom.
So I have a little bit different view. I've never subscribed to Charlie Munger's, original statement. He says, I think Bitcoin is poison. As a matter of fact, I think it's rat poison. I see the value of it. Is it proving to be the inflation hedge that they said it was? Well, let's wait and see. This is certainly a bump. 45% or 47% in the past 22 days. I mean, that's a pop. And now we're going to see, will the real Bitcoin please stand up? But I'm not a traditionalist that discounts it. I think it's going. Is it going to 1 million? I don't have that as my guidance, at least not tomorrow. But I think that Bitcoin is stronger than people give it credit for. And I am, because there's one element about Bitcoin, and maybe I'm crazy, and maybe you can tell me that I'm, nuts or miss something. There is a limited supply. And whenever you have a limited supply, then you're not going to have the situation like the Fed. The Fed keeps printing money, Pat. And so I tend to be, am I a bull? I'm not a raw raging bull, but I think long-term Bitcoin's going to be fine, but I don't know if I'm with the $1 million and 5-year crowd.
Yeah, well, I think the limited supply is ultimately meaningless when there's no more demand. I mean, the only demand for Bitcoin comes from speculators who think they're going to get rich. And the way people get rich on Bitcoin is they sell it to somebody else who also believes that they can get rich selling it to another person at an even higher price. But there's no fundamental value proposition for Bitcoin. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't
I disagree
generate
with that,
anything.
actually. I disagree, because actually, if you look at some of the worst regimes in the world, the Taliban, they crack down. They don't allow women to be educated. When we left, Taliban moved back in. The Taliban couldn't stop Bitcoin. We had people here sending Bitcoin to continue to educate women, and the Taliban couldn't stop it.
Right, but why don't they just buy a stable coin that's just as liquid, just as easy, or tokenized gold? I mean, there are tokens that are backed by real gold that are just, in fact, easier to transfer. You can do it quicker and cheaper than Bitcoin. So if you want,
you're still centralized with those. You're still like the Bitcoin. You can.
So
move
what? Who cares if it's centralized? It's a store of value.
Well, because
that
the Taliban can go get the gold. The Taliban can put.
They can't
there's
go.
ways you
no.
can do it.
So let that take Tether Gold. Tether Gold has all their gold stored in Switzerland. The Taliban can't go to Switzerland and get any of that gold. So if you own Tether Gold, you own something that's just as safe as Bitcoin, except you actually own gold. You own something of real value. You don't have just a string of numbers that means absolutely nothing. I mean, there are 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. There are a lot of Satoshis, and no matter how many you have, you can't do a thing with them. Whereas gold is a very valuable mineral that is, being held by central bank as reserves, but it's used in industry. It's something real. So if I had the choice between holding on to tokenized gold versus tokenized nothing, I'm going to take tokenized gold. The reason that people want Bitcoin is to get rich, not to use it as a medium of exchange or as a currency. Because if you want to use a currency or a medium of exchange, there are plenty of other tokens that are much better. The only demand for Bitcoin is because people think it's going to 1 million. They think it's going to 10 million because that's what they're being told.
Well, I agree. That's why they hold it. I just say there's the use case of
not really.
Because look, I mean, you can have the gold in Switzerland, and I agree, and I own gold. I like gold a lot. I'm a big gold bull. And the American government came in and took Russia's FX reserves. The American government came in and took American gold. Anytime you have something centralized or control of the banking pipelines that we do, there's a risk there. I'm not saying it's a high risk. I don't live my life worried about but Bitcoin it has the ability where you can literally with 24 or 12 passwords, I could go to Fort Lauderdale Airport. I could get on a plane. I could fly anywhere in the world. I could get a job as a janitor for a couple months. I could buy an iPhone. I could download the app, and I could download my entire net worth to my phone.
There are lots
That's
of other,
value.
There are a lot of other tokens.
There are no other ways you could.
No, there are a lot of other
the
tokens.
Blockchain
You can do the exact same thing.
System
All the whole alternative possible.
No, but there are thousands of other tokens that you could do the exact same thing
in theory, but yeah,
no, not in
is the
theory.
best.
Why? Who says it's the best?
Because the proof of work algorithm.
Well, who cares about proof of work? First of all, there are other tokens that are proof of work, but proof of work doesn't mean anything if the work doesn't produce anything. Look, I could spend half my day digging holes in the ground, and I can spend the other half of the day filling them back up again. And at the end of the day, I can prove that I worked all day, but my efforts resulted in absolutely nothing. When you work to create a Bitcoin, you've wasted that energy. You talk about Bitcoin being energy. All of the energy used to create Bitcoin is a complete waste. Bitcoin is not a battery.
If you attach, well, if U.S. needs to build out its electrical grid. Ted Cruz talked about this a couple years ago. He's been one of the few.
We don't need Bitcoin for that. Bitcoin takes away our electricity.
No, but the challenge in building an electrical grid is that you can't just say, "Hey, I want to build a data center in Miami. I'm going to put up a data center. Go." You have to have the grid. Electrical grid it has to be balanced out. It's a very intricate engineering problem. And one of the ways you can build flex capacity, if you're trying to grow your grid really rapidly to try to catch up to the Chinese, who have built an entire American grid in 4 years, by the way. One way you can build for bigger grid than you presently need to build capacity is you start sticking Bitcoin miners on the back of it.
It's a bunch of nonsense.
Because then you can take the Bitcoin miner down when you need to. Texas does this.
But to say that we should waste energy so that we can have that.
It's not wasting.
How is it not wasted when you're just creating nothing?
Because the laws of thermodynamics say energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It can only change its form. You're not wasting any energy.
No, yes you are. The energy is gone. We've used it up.
No, you haven't.
Yes, we have. You can't reuse the energy that we used to create the Bitcoin. It's gone.
So you're saying Newton's laws of thermodynamics?
No, this has got nothing to do with Newton's laws of thermodynamics. Okay, so if I drive my car and the gas is gone, what am I going to do? What happened to that gas? It's gone, right? I can't reuse it.
It's been converted into heat.
But it's gone. I can't use it anymore.
You can't use it in that form.
But I know whatever energy was used to mine Bitcoin is gone. We can't use it to light up our homes or to power anything. We've already consumed it. Whatever was utilized. What you're saying is the nonsense that the crypto community tries to put out there to try to justify this complete waste of energy.
When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.